Welcome, fans. We are back, and this is the week that we've all been waiting for the whole season, the first round of the district playoffs. I'm Dan DeFrancis. I'm here with my partner, Jim Hammett, and this podcast is being brought to you by Sporting Goods Discounters and Blaine Boring's Chocolate. So we're going to get right into the action here. We're going to cover every single first round matchup this week, and we're going to start out with Single A District 5. Our first game is going to be Shade at North Star, a rematch from the regular season, where a battered North Star team ended up pulling one out 3-0 only. So this is going to be a really interesting contest. And Jim, start us off here with your predictions and your concise breakdown here.
Yeah, we're going to try to go quick tonight. We have so many games to cover. It's hard to believe it's week 11 already. But when we're going to look at this game in particular, Shade at North Star, and you have to talk about Shade a little bit and give them a little credit. This is the best season they've had in a long time. They're 6-4. They're riding a 3-game winning streak coming in. They're riding a pretty much an explosive rushing attack, if you will. As a team, they're averaging 315 yards a game, and it all starts with the main man, Brock Medva. He has 1,700 yards, 13 touchdowns. He's averaging 170 yards a game. He's their go-to guy. So, anything Shade is going to do, it's going to run through Medva. But you also got to talk about their defense. They held North Star to just 3 points. Maybe North Star is not having the best season they've ever had, but, they're used to scoring a lot more points than that. And, with the weapons they have, like Miller and Strazer and all them, it's a good sign for Shade.
Absolutely is. And, just to kind of give you a real quick breakdown, Jim, like you said, this is their best season in years. Shade last year was 1-8. Year before that, 2-7. Year before that, only had 2 wins again. So this is really, they're the talk of the town, so to speak, there in Carnbrook and in Central City. So it's definitely, you talk about teams just that, like kind of their first playoff appearance, you don't know how they'll do. But I really think that they can come into this game, especially getting some positive feedback from that first game where they only lost 3-0, and they should come in and definitely make this a game. One thing with North Star, this year is that they have not been able to really blow teams out. Even, teams that they should have or teams that they shouldn't have. They really don't have those type of, classic blowout wins, except in, some of those bottom feeders in the West Pack. All things are pointing to this North Star Shade being an absolutely close game. Hopefully, for the fans, not another 3-0 game unless you like defense, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, North Star, they relied so much on that passing game the past couple of years, being, I believe the 2-time defending District 5 champs. They fell off a little bit, but they're still 8-2. They're having a good year. Mm-hmm. They still have one of the most dynamic players around in Tony Strazer. He can run, he can pass, he's going to catch it. So, he's a real big matchup problem in this game. But to make a pick real quick, because we have so many to get through, I'm going to stick with North Star. I think that playoff experience kind of is going to lean in their way. They're playing at home. They've been in the playoffs. They've played in big games before. Shade, they're a little bit new at this, but, it's a very positive sign to see out of the Shade football program.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to stick with North Star as well for the simple fact that, like you said, Tony Strazer, the best player in this game, or at least most talented, he has been coming on these last 2 weeks. Finally looking like the Strazer that we've seen the past 2 years. So all in all, hopefully their senior leadership can bring them to a victory. But also you got to like Brock Medva, though, for Shade. If they can establish the ground game and make some big plays, they're going to have to make some big plays in this one. But, I just don't see it happening. So, yeah, just like you said, North Star on top in this.
So the winner of this game, North Star Shade, they'll be heading out to Northern Bedford to play a very good, Panthers team out there. So, this is a good tune-up and, kind of gets the momentum rolling for maybe a run to the championship for either squad. It's going to take us into our next game. It's the 3-6 matchup in this 6-team field of the Single A District 5 playoffs. You have Tussey Mountain headed over to Wimber to take on the Ramblers, and before we start about the prediction, you got to give a big congratulations to Wimber football in general. Every player that's ever played for them. 600 wins as a high school football team. Yeah. They just accomplished that last week. Congratulations to the current day players that got to live through that milestone and be a big part to Wimber football. Touching on the game here a little bit, we've got to see Wimber this season, and what they have is they have a 1,000-yard passer. They have a great rushing attack that averages over 230 yards a game. They have some pretty dynamic athletes on the perimeter, and they're big up front. They look like a top team in District 5.
Yeah, they really do. And looking on the other side with Tussey, you got to look at this team and looking at their offense. this is just that one of those ground and pound teams. They only have 500 yards on offense with Husick, a quarterback. What's that? 50 yards a game per average. So you got to look at, you have Sipes, you have Corbin. Husick also is adding 500 on the ground. So, I mean, those three players there all have over 500, with Sipes coming in at 967. So, Jim, looking at teams that Wimber has had trouble with this year, and we've said it before, if a team can establish a ground game against the Ramblers, it's been tough for them. So, what do you think the dynamic will be with that Wimber defense, which we've seen Almodovar, who's come up strong this year at his defensive line position, going up against this Tussey team who's really going to have to put all their eggs in one basket here.
Yeah, the thing, with Wimber's 2 losses, they lost to a good Portage team and a very good Ligonier team. And the thing with those teams, they have multiple back looks. Wimber can shut down the best running back around if it's just him. But they seem to have trouble whenever there's different looks coming at you with Kephart and Dividoc at Portage, Moust and Torrance at Ligonier. So when it's a couple guys, it's always tough to stop. And you look at the Tussey Mountain team, Sipes has 900, Corbin's in the 600s, and Husick, the quarterback, or not the quarterback, the other Husick, he has 500 yards. So they have a bunch of different looks. So that could be troublesome for that Wimber defense.
Yeah, I really don't think that, though, even considering that Wimber is going to have much of a problem this year, just by looking at their schedule of the Tussey Mountain, what they did this year. Just taking a look at it here, they've had some tough losses to non-playoff teams. Mo Shannon Valley lost to them. Also lost to Claysburg Kimmel. That's a tough one too. You don't want to be a team that's coming into the playoffs losing those type of games that you should be winning. I don't know. All in all, it's tough to say since we haven't been able to see Tussey that much this year. But we do know that this Wimber team, Jim, like you said, they have weapons. The Tomlinsons. I really like. What I really like though is Matt Barkley. He's a real dynamic player on offense and defense. Just a playmaker type. He can return interceptions. He can return punts and stuff too. So I think him and Dan Tomlinson and Dustin Blau, I think they're going to get the job done.
Yeah, I agree. I think Wimber's defense may struggle. Tussey Mountain may be able to find some points, but I think Wimber has enough offense that they can outscore a lot of teams at this point in the season. And with that defense, it's a work in progress. But they're playing with a lot of confidence, coming off a big emotional win. So I'm going to take the Ramblers.
Sounds good. That's my pick too. So we're going to head in then, Jim, to D5 AA. And that's going to bring you straight actually to the D5 AA championship, where the Chestnut Ridge Lions are going to take on the Everett Warriors. And this is a great sort of that Bedford County rivalry. The three schools, Bedford, Everett, and Chestnut Ridge, all have the close proximity type of rivalry. And it's going to be an interesting game there. It's going to be up at Northern Bedford. Fans, great facility up there. So, coming into this game, looking at each team 5-5. Chestnut Ridge coming in on the year. Everett also has a 5-5 mark. Ridge just blew out rival Bedford, so that helps to get a little bit of momentum under your belt though for that.
Yeah, both teams, with those identical records, it's tough to compare schedules because Everett, they're playing in the ICC, a lot of single A teams. Chestnut Ridge pretty much played anyone and everyone this year. They've played three teams from Maryland, I believe. Berks Catholic out of Reading, Carrick from the Pittsburgh City League. They got to play Central out of the MAC, Bedford out of the LHAC. They really, they've seen just about everyone you can see.
Yeah.
And they've had their ups and downs. They've had some success. When you talk about Chestnut Ridge this year, it's Bo Bosch, the quarterback, kind of filling in for Hanks the past couple years, the leader of that team. He's kind of taken on that same role. He's, he can throw it when he has to, but he's a running back. He almost playing quarterback. He's 6'5". He's a big kid, big athletic kid. So he's going to be really tough to contain for that Everett defense.
All right, yeah, guys. So taking a look there, take a look at the Everett offense. It's sort of like that Tussey. They only have 625 yards in the air. They only have one running back that has over 300 yards rushing on the season. With Rote coming in at 840. So you only have a one punch there at running back. So I think that's going to be tough. Facing a Chestnut Ridge team who, Jim, talking about, they've been, their schedules taking them all over the place, but I kind of think that coming into this game that type of schedule is actually going to help them. They've seen so many different styles, seen so many different type of teams that, this Everett team who's not very dynamic on offense, only 5 touchdowns on the season passing and 4 interceptions. I think that it's at least a predictable offense to defend, especially when you have a great coach with Shoemaker from Chestnut Ridge.
Yeah, we saw Everett come out last week, though. They had an inspired performance playing against a really good Central Martinsburg team. They kept it close. A general consensus out there is maybe Central didn't go at it as hard because they're a sure playoff team. Mm-hmm. Either way, it's good for Everett to come into a game and play with confidence, and that's going to be a good thing to see for them heading in, Friday night in this championship game. To take you back a little bit, the past 2 years, District 5 has been combined with District 6, but you saw 3 years ago a Bedford team. They were having a tough season. They beat Chestnut Ridge in the finale. Then in this one-game playoff, they beat them again. Then they went down to the Pittsburgh City League. They won a game. Then they upset the District 9 champion. So just like that, a 4-game winning streak, and they were in the final 8 of the state, playing Greensburg Central Catholic at Wimber Stadium. I mean, it was just, the same type of thing can happen this year. You look at the bracket out there, the winner plays a 1-7, the only District 8 City League team that made the playoffs. They get to play them. It may be here, closer to the area. Mm-hmm. Then you never know that District 9 is really strong in single A, but double A hasn't always been the best. So you could see the same type of thing. One team just has to get hot, and they may make a deep run to the playoffs. To make a pick, I like Chestnut Ridge with the diversity of the schedule. I think Bo Bosch is a tremendous player, and I think the Lions are going to come away with this one.
Yeah, I think we're 3 for 3 here, agreeing with each other, Jim. I'm going to take the Lions as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to take us here to the D6A playoffs. And this year, we've said it before. You guys have probably read it out elsewhere. There's only 8 teams in the bracket this year. All 8 of these teams can win on any given night, especially in this first round where there's some great matchups pitted against each other. We have a lot of conferences also represented. We got the ICC, we got the LHAC, got the Westpac, and the Heritage all represented. So it's going to be a really interesting playoffs. But the first game we're going to take a look at is the 1 versus 8. That's Bellwood Annis and Glendale.
This is a matchup that happened earlier in the season. Bellwood obviously won by a large margin, but Glendale, the thing with that, you're playing the same team in a couple weeks of time. Bellwood, I know from talking to some of the people up there, they don't want to play the same team twice because it's always tricky beating the same team twice. But, when you talk about Bellwood, they have excellent coaching. We were up on the box this past week. I think they have about 30 coaches. They might have more coaches than players, but that's why their kids know what they're doing at all times. They're so savvy in game situations. It's scary how good they are in game situations. The quarterback, Seth Worthing, he's a dynamic player. He didn't have the best game against Richland. Kind of made some mistakes, not getting the ball away when he needed to. But, Glendale doesn't have that same talent as Richland. So, he's going to be able to run and make plays happen. And obviously, whatever happens, Casey Gray's going to be doing something, whether it's offense, defense, special teams. He's just a guy that, Glendale's just going to have a tough time slowing down.
Yeah, absolutely. And we say it, a lot, or at least every week whenever we cover Bellwood, is that their ability to get to the outside with such a diverse group of playmakers on that team really makes them tough. And even Richland, they had a really tough time with it. Richland was able to really kind of defend that play action to, keep Seth Worthing from getting too far outside, but Gray made his plays. DeGeneres also made his plays. O'Shea was tough in that game as well. So it's really for Glendale, for the Vikings, coming in here at 6-4, they really got to pull out all the stops. Looking at what they bring to the table, though, from the offensive category, again, they're not lights out by any means. They have Damon Braniff, who's coming in as a senior, over 1,000 yards rushing. He's an absolutely stellar athlete. We've seen film on him with highlight films and such. But can this Bellwood team again cover Braniff? One of the things that I always think is really tough to do if you're a running type of team, especially with one back, Jim. We just talked about this with that Wimber Tussey Mountain. Is if there's 3 backs, you can do a lot of different schematics for that. If they only have one back, that's definitely tough to bring in something new that a team hasn't seen before.
Yeah, when you're talking about this Glendale team, it's a small team. They only have 28 guys on the roster. I'm sure some injuries have happened along the way. But it's 3 guys. It's obviously Damon Branoff, one of the better running backs the ICC has to offer. The quarterback, Gary Witherow, he can throw it, enough to keep you honest. But he can run it enough, too. He has 5 touchdowns on the ground. And the receiver, he's a big play man in the return game. That's Doug Twigg. Yeah. He has 400 yards rushing, another 400 yards receiving. So he's a dynamic player. So, for Glendale to have any sort of success in this game, to even hope to win this game, they need all three of those guys to have a big game.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, you look after that, the production level of everyone else after that, it goes way down. You know, everything, it revolves around the big three. And if the big three have an outstanding game, they have a chance.
Yeah, I agree with you. What do you think, you know, and I'll put my 2 cents in here. You know, you're coming in as the 8th seed in this game and playing a 1 seed who killed you in the regular season. Are you going to try to take it, this game, are you going to try to take it really slow, try to grind out the clock, or are you going to come out and, you know, try to make some plays, you know, through the air possibly even, and, you know, try to just score at will basically to try to get all the points you can?
You know, I think conventional wisdom says slow the game down, play it at your own pace, but, you know, as an 8 seed, you're not supposed to win anyway. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking guns blazing, reverses, trick plays, gadget plays, anything you have, because it takes a lot to beat a good team in Bellwood. They don't lose very often. They had every opportunity to beat Richland this past week. They were right with them toe to toe the whole way. You know, if I'm Glendale, you have some room to gamble and make some, you know, make a few tries on some plays you've been saving.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's the same way. Like, you know, these teams, an 8th seed, they don't have anything to lose. It's kind of easier for the athletes, take some pressure off them maybe if they're, you know, trying different plays, you know, just trying to, you know, be creative and letting that creative side of the athletes come out of them instead of, you know, trying to be stiff and, you know, just pound the ball or whatnot. So, you know, that'd be interesting to see if that sort of thing happens in the game. But still, Jim, picks here. You know, I'm taking Bellwood, obviously. We've seen them 3 times this year, and they never disappoint.
Yeah, I'm going Bellwood, too. You know, I put some picks on our D6 Sports Network website. You can check them out. Kind of a little bit of a notes, if you will, media guide style. So check that out. I made my picks at the end, and I have Bellwood winning this one as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, those are great write-ups that you did. Then we're going to head into Bishop Guilfoyle, traveling to Juniata Valley. Folks, Bishop Guilfoyle, the team, they were sitting at that 2 seed pretty much all year. You know, had that tough loss to McCourt, that shutout loss to McCourt. Now they find themselves on the road first round at Juniata Valley nonetheless.
Yeah, Bishop Guilfoyle, they're an interesting team because they have some big wins this year. You know, you talk about them, they're not a great offense. Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing that kind of holds them back from being a good team to a really good team. Mm-hmm. You know, it all starts with that injury to the original starting quarterback, Brandon Chadburn. You know, he hasn't played since I think about week 4, week 5. I can't anticipate him playing at all this season. You know, unless I'm totally off and he got cleared this week. But you know, all things are pointing that it's still going to be Pat Irwin at quarterback. Irwin's done a nice job at quarterback. He's a senior. He's played the position before. But he still, you know, he takes away from having another receiver on the outside. You know, the one thing Guilfoyle does have, they have a tremendous defense. You know, I've been talking about it all year. That defensive line, they're huge. I think they're all, the smallest one might be 225, 230 pounds. So, you know, they get to the quarterback. Yeah, they have a bunch of sacks as a team. I'll try to get a number for you. They have 27 sacks as a team in 10 games. So that's almost 3 sacks a game. So they're going to put pressure on you. So Juniata Valley has to be ready for that. We know what Juniata Valley has. They have 2 running backs with 1,000 yards. So there's no secret as to what they're doing. You know, you have to imagine they're going to want to try to establish a run this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen with Bishop Guilfoyle, they've had trouble with teams that are able to assert their offensive game plan in games. Bishop McCourt, they were really able to do it. They got their ground game going. Richland, they were very balanced on offense as well whenever they beat Guilfoyle. So, you know, for Juniata Valley to come out, they really have to use that 1-2 punch with their running backs. Also, thinking about Guilfoyle, the field position battle, they need to get that special teams solidified up because we know how bad that looked in that Bishop McCourt game. You know, that's obviously tough. But Jim, like you said, there's a D line at Bishop Guilfoyle and an offensive line even that can play with any team, single A or double A. So, you know, I think for Juniata, it's helped to been able to have seen a dominating type of team like Bellwood Annis. They saw them in the middle of the regular season. You know, Juniata didn't have the easiest game against Bellwood. It was 26-7 at halftime. So, you know, that's when they ended up making it a closer game. I think they came within 13 points at the end. Yeah, I think it helps for Juniata. They have to know that they are going to be coming into a very fundamentally sound and really dominating offensive and defensive line for Guilfoyle.
Yeah, and a big thing with Juniata Valley, they're not a great passing team by any measure. 17 interceptions by Juniata Valley quarterbacks this year. And not to mention they've lost 7 fumbles. So they're prone to turnovers. You know, they're a 9-1 team. Usually when you have those many turnovers, you're going to lose a few more. Yeah. They've been able to, battle through that. Obviously the running, Grissinger and Jesse Clare, they've been able to get around it. At some point you have to wonder if the quarterback, Caleb Taylor, is going to have to make some throws. Against Guilfoyle, you have to imagine with that big defensive line coming at you, that he's going to have to step up and make some throws. And, seeing Guilfoyle this year, they're pretty sound. We talk about that defensive line, but, DJ Kidd as a linebacker, McCluskey at corner, a couple of those other guys. He made one of the better interceptions we've seen this year.
Yeah.
So, they have athletes all over the field. So, it's not going to be as easy for Juniata Valley as some may think.
All right, well, for my pick, just like you said, Guilfoyle team, I just think that McCourt game was definitely not their real team. We've seen Juniata Valley a few times on game film. This year we saw them with that Bellwood Annis. We saw a game film on them. So, just to say all in all, I would say objectively, I'm going to say I think Bishop Guilfoyle is going to take it.
Yeah, I think their strength of schedule carries them. Looking at Juniata Valley's schedule, they didn't get the best teams of the ICC. They got Bellwood. They lost to them by 13, but from my understanding, it was closer to about 30. They scored a couple quick touchdowns in the waning seconds of the game. So, this is a team maybe not quite of Bellwood Annis's caliber, but pretty much right on par. So I think Juniata Valley is just going to struggle on the talent level end.
Sounds good. All right, Jim. Well, what do we got here for the second leg of the D6 single A?
Well, it's going to take us into the Bishop McCourt Penn's Manor game, a highly anticipated matchup in this one. A lot of talk on the message boards on Bleacher Coaches this week. It's going to be a close game. People really don't know how to pick this one. A lot of people are saying McCourt, but still a good number of people are pretty much sticking tall with the defending champs in Penn's Manor.
Yeah, this is such an interesting game. I'm really glad we were able to be up at Penn's Manor and see that type of atmosphere that Bishop McCourt is going to have to get into. I'm real big on atmosphere and stuff, especially for high school. And, that's really a sort of a unique atmosphere up there. It's not the biggest stadium ever, but the fans they like to show their dislike, saying it bluntly, for the refs and whatnot. So it's definitely a hostile environment up there. It's going to be, a really great atmosphere, especially McCourt. Hopefully they're going to bring a strong contingent. And, just looking up at the matchups, though, one-on-one all over the field, there are some absolutely great matchups with playmakers.
Yeah, when Penn's Manor has the ball, the key to it all is obviously Danny Ferentz. He makes the running backs, he opens up running lanes for them because teams are so worried about him. They have a great offensive line. So one of the best matchups of the night is going to be that, experienced Penn's Manor line that won a district championship against this massive Bishop McCourt defensive front that's been causing fits for teams all season long. Sometimes you go to football games, you're more focused on the ball carrier or the play happening on the field. Take a look at that line because that's just going to be a battle, like a World War I battle in the trenches. Not a lot of ground is going to be given up one way or the other. It's going to be a few plays each side that's going to determine the game.
Yeah, for sure. We saw this Penn's Manor. They're not those the sort of individuals who everyone knows who these Penn's Manor guys are, but they are all, like Jim, like we've said before, they are built very much alike. They're really stingy. They're really kind of scrappy bunch. So I think that's going to be difficult for McCourt. I really like this McCourt defensive line, but Barbin's extremely aggressive. Barbin's one of the best players that we've seen this year. But, I think that this Penn's Manor team could give trouble to Lake Dorn and Roman just because of their aggressiveness.
Absolutely. Ferentz gets all the attention, but we've seen Beitner. He's broke off some big runs this year. He had a huge screen pass against Ligonier when we saw them. Henderson's made a few runs here and there. Some of the receivers, they don't throw it enough. Corey Brown coming off that big touchdown to put them up 2 scores against Ligonier. So, McCourt, they're not going to respect the pass as much because they're going to be so worried about Penn's Manor's running game. And like I said earlier in the week, Penn's Manor's not going to try to go up the middle. It's going to come down to McCourt's outside linebackers and defensive ends shutting down those lanes for Penn's Manor. And if they're not able to, Penn's Manor's going to score a lot of points because that's, if you get them on an option pitch, you key on Ferentz, he's going to pitch it out to Beitner and he's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. Jim, I know that you said it this week talking about Belsky, and then you have Seaweed on the defensive ends from McCourt. Both seniors, both big kids, both very aggressive. We saw that Penn's Manor, with those tough defensive ends from Ligonier, they were able to hold them in check and whatnot. So that's going to be really interesting to see how Penn's Manor, that great coaching staff they have up there, how they're able to scheme this McCourt team who's, really, you got to face face it, they're pretty sound overall in all aspects on defense. So, that brings me to the biggest matchup that I think is going to happen is the McCourt passing game against this Penn's Manor defense. And, we've seen Penn's Manor being able to shut down teams that teams that aren't able to pass. They've been able to absolutely shut them down. But, how is it going to be whenever they're playing a team that can go deep, who can pass it around on any level of the field?
Yeah, I mean, obviously in McCourt, their offense, they're going to try to establish the run. It hasn't been very great this season. There's no way to get around it. It's been inconsistent. The different linemen shuffling in and out. Belsky coming back into the fold. So they have a couple different running backs. No one that's set in place. Some of the linemen have been moved around. They even move around during the game. But what they have is a passing game. And DeFrancesco, Spangler, two athletic receivers that can go get the ball, that can stretch the field. They're very similar in what they do. They're not huge jumpers, they're not speed demons, but they're solid kids that can catch the ball and run good routes. And Tomkowski, from seeing him week 2 against Forest Hills, he didn't look great. Then we saw him a few weeks later against Richland. He looked a little bit better. Then we saw him a few weeks later against Guilfoyle, and he looked pretty good. This is his first year starting, and now he's finally, hitting his stride, hitting his groove. And that doesn't bode well for Penn's Manor, who's 9-0 against run-first teams. But when they saw Northern Cambria in week 1, they can throw the ball, and they didn't win that game.
Yeah, that's interesting to see. I think another thing from McCourt, a deciding factor could be, one that you really wouldn't expect is Tyler Rugg from McCourt. He plays that fullback sort of tight end position. You have these couple Penn's Manor athletes who I would think they can cover, these McCourt receivers. But I think that if you can sneak a Rugg out there, McCourt likes to get the screen going. They like to get, those medium passing routes on those waggles and whatnot. So, I think if they can assert that into their offense philosophy for this week, I think they're going to be victorious.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing I've been bringing up all week has been the special teams. The punting and kicking of Jordan Spangler is outstanding. He's the best in the district. There's no doubt about it. So McCourt's won games on field position before. They can win it again. I picked McCourt because I thought it was pretty even on both sides of the ball, but when I looked at McCourt's special teams, they have a distinct advantage in that spot.
Sounds good. Yeah, Jim, and I like all your picks are obviously objective. Folks, again, we're both from McCourt. We're trying to just break these stats just like anybody else would and present you with what we've been finding. So, that's just a little heads up. But, all right, well, we're going to get into the last game of the D6A playoffs, and this is a great one, Jim, that we are going to actually be able to broadcast live. That's going to be Northern Cambria traveling to Portage. Portage, the 2 seed, and you've talked about this in your playoff rundown on the site and on your blog. This Portage team is definitely the dark horse that no one really thought was even going to make a peep really in the playoff scenario this year.
Yeah, Portage, I mean, they're a 9-1 team. Who would have thought? They had that early season loss to a good Berlin team, but right now they might be able to beat Berlin. They may be the best team in that Westpac League. They have that great running game. Kephart has been doing phenomenal. He's just a sophomore. Dividoc, just a freshman. They have a lot of linemen, sophomores, freshmen, juniors. It's an underclassmen-centered team. They don't throw the ball a lot. That's going to be something that hurts them. But one thing, looking at their schedule, winning in tight games, they beat North Star by 3. They beat Blacklick Valley by 12. They beat Homer Center by 6. So, they're comfortable playing good teams because they usually find a way to win. And that great coaching staff with Gary Gauss, he has those kids playing with a lot of confidence right now, and they're as dangerous as anyone.
Yeah, it's really interesting to watch Portage. We've had the pleasure of watching them every week, able to break down their game films. And Jim, I know you're one of the guys that say it a lot, is that they run only about 6 or 7 plays on offense.
Yeah, going back to that 2008 season, whenever I was in high school, I saw them. They saw them play McCourt, and leading up to the weeks, getting to see film on them. It was really just, this is what we run. We're going to run it well. Great blocking. Our guys hit the hole hard. But that's it. They are what they are.
Yeah.
Kind of that, remember the Titans. What did Coach Boone say? He ran 10 plays, and it works. So that's what Portage is sticking with. I'm sure they might have added a few over the years, but for the most part, it's not a very diverse attack.
Yeah. One of the things that really surprises me, all right, I shouldn't say surprises, one of the things that has really stuck out to me watching Portage every week has been the turnover margin. They do not turn the ball over really, at all. They do a little bit, but, they are able to make the timely turnovers on the opponents, and I think that's really big. And we saw Northern Cambria. Northern Cambria made some just absolutely heartbreaking type of, really regrettable mistakes in that Berlin game up there that we saw. I think that's going to really come into play. To finish it off here, I think Portage, I really like Portage. I've bet against them pretty much every week this week, or this whole entire year. So, I'm going to jump on their bandwagon and say, I think Portage is going to take this out, especially at home.
Not so fast, my friend. I'm a March Madness guy. I have trouble picking the top seeds in every game. I need to pick an upset here and there. Okay. A 2-7 matchup, why not? I got to see Northern Cambria play. They played Berlin as tough as you can play them. They can throw the ball. Jeff Hogan, they have some impressive wins. They beat Penn's Manor, the defending District 6 champs, at home. Zacheski and Sukar running the ball. Adam Politis, the highly athletic receiver. I think they can do a lot of great things on offense, and their defense, for the most part, shut down a great Berlin rushing attack with Glotfeldy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, you know what? They're playing tough. They're playing with confidence. They just beat their arch rival, a game not one person in the world picked them to win, and they won. They've been in playoff mode for a couple weeks now. I'm going with the Colts.
Interesting, Jim. So it's going to be the Northern Cambria Colts with their terrific end of the season versus this Mustang Magic that has been going strong the whole season. We should probably add in one more little stat here. This is Portage's third straight game versus a Heritage Conference team. That's interesting. But I do think that this is the best Heritage Conference team that they're going to be playing.
I think so too. We talked about that earlier. It's a nice advantage for them because they got to see a few different teams they weren't familiar and comfortable with. Mm-hmm. So that could help Portage out in the end. Obviously, playing at home is going to help them, but hey, why not? Northern Cambria.
All right, sounds good. All right, we're going to take a little quick break here, guys. We come back, we're going to get into AA, AAA, and finally, we're going to get in a few words on the Quad A matchups this week. You got your 3 D6 teams that are going to be taking on District 9 DuBois in the Quad A. So stay with us. We'll be back, and we're going to be breaking down the AA when we get back. All right, we're back for the first round playoff podcast. This is brought to you again, folks, by Sporting Goods Discounters and Blaine Boring's Chocolates, both of Johnstown, Pennsylvania. So we're going to get right back into it here quickly. The AA, AAA, and Quad A rundowns here in the D6 playoffs. So, Jim, we are going to start out with Penn Cambria at Richland. Good rematch just from a couple weeks ago. Obviously, a lot has changed with the Penn Cambria team with Coach Fetzer leaving after that Richland game. But again, this rematch is going to be interesting because you don't really want to see a team twice in that short of a period of time.
Yeah, we mentioned that earlier on the podcast about it is always tough to beat a team twice. They always say in basketball you never want to play the same team that third time in the playoffs, stuff like that. Penn Cambria, things didn't go the way they were supposed to. They were picked to win the league. Everyone thought they'd at least be a top 2 or 3 seed in the playoffs, and things didn't work out that way. They lost some tough games. There's no doubt about it. They're a few plays away. That Forest Hills overtime game. A tight game of Guilfoyle and what have you. So they're not far away from being right up there. But it's still, it's tough losing your head coach. I know there was more to the story than's been what led on with the coach leaving and all that. But, they've dealt with some injuries. Behe kind of had, I think, a concussion, maybe a minor concussion. I'm not sure if he's even playing this week. But Penn Cambria still has talent. They have that running back by committee. They've been gaining yards on the ground. They still have that tough defense. Devin Lawhead and if Behe plays, they're 2 of the best linebackers you'll see in District 6. So, Penn Cambria, they have the talent. They were picked to win the league for a reason, but, all things are pointing to another Richland win.
Yeah, I just don't really see how anything could be much different. Obviously, one thing, however, that does kind of, shake the tides up a little bit is the fact that this Richland-Penn Cambria game, the first one, was only 12-12 at half. What do you kind of contribute that to? I don't really know, but Jim, even thinking about the game this past week, Richland kind of got out to a slow start as well. Like maybe that could have be a factor in this game or not. But again, this Richland team is so deep and so talented.
Yeah, we heard some talks last week. Maybe Richland's a little bit overrated. They didn't come in and blow out Bellwood. But, you have to remember Bellwood is a good team. Both teams took chances that game. They kind of played kind of with a free spirit, going for it on fourth down, taking some chances on some plays. So, that's a hard one to read, to judge a team. I think the whole body of work Richland has produced this season, running the table, 1 through 10 games. Their goal their motto this year is win 13. They wanted to be 13-0, win the district championship, and see where the chips fall from there. Very close to that point. Now they enter that second season, as coaches like to put it. I think they're well equipped to win this whole thing. You've got the power running game with Solarchuk. We saw last week they have a little bit of a speed running game with Farina coming out of the backfield as well. They can throw it. Their defense has been great. The line play has been great. Really not a whole lot of glaring weaknesses this team has.
Yeah, I really, Jim, looking at the game film from Penn, Cambria, and Richland I was today, Richland was able to really do anything. They were dissecting this Penn Cambria defense in the second half just unbelievably, and we've seen them do it at various times as well. If you don't have a big pass rush on this Richland team, they can absolutely pick you apart. And I think that's what's going to happen in this game. You're at Richland. You got your home field game. I think that's really nice for a top seed, especially an undefeated team. But then, look on the flip side. Can it be one of those things? This is a Richland team who has everything to lose, and Penn Cambria really has nothing to lose. So can it be, Richland coming in, maybe off to a slow start, a little tight or whatnot? But I don't think it's going to be like that. Coach Smith, Coach Bailey have done such a good job this season of getting teams prepared game in and game out, not looking ahead to any other games. I think that's going to be exactly what happens. I'm going with Richland.
Yeah, I'm going with Richland. I picked them all year long. There's really no way for me to pick against them at this point. The way they're playing, the way they're running, the coaches are coaching well, the players are playing well, and Richland's going to the second round.
All right, well, what is that going to take us into here next, Jim?
We're going to go into the 2-7 matchup, a rematch of Week 10. You have Bald Eagle making the trip the whole way back to Ligonier for a second straight week to take on a Rams team that pretty much dismantled them. They won by 42 points last week, so it's a matter of, can Bald Eagle make it closer or even win this game this time?
Yeah, that's really sort of a head scratch. I wasn't expecting it to be that bad. Obviously, we knew that Bald Eagles, their record against playoff teams was pretty dismal. But this is interesting because I was in the same situation whenever I played in 2004. We played Forest Hills, and we blew them out the first time at the end of the year. And then the very next week, we had to play them in the first round of the playoffs, and it was a much closer type of game. But granted, Forest Hills is a much more talented team, in my opinion, than this Bald Eagle team is. I just don't think that they really have the firepower or the manpower here. Looking at stats again, like always, folks, there's just nothing really that sticks out to you that they could make this a closer game. 549 yards through the air with Cole Long. He only has 549 through the air, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And then you look at the running backs, running back by committee again. 214 yards for Green, and Barnard has 335, and then Bartley, the leading rusher, with 695. But, at the same time, I just really don't see the playmakers on the field that are going to be able to get it done against Ligonier, who, that Penn's Manor game was interesting because they lost their best 2 players. But we've seen what they've been able to do since they've got them back, just really running over teams and looking like the Ligonier that we saw in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, they're kind of getting back to the basics, what they're doing well. You're going to ride your horses at this point in the season, and Ligonier's going to ride Ryan Torrance on offense. He's one of the better backs in the district, one of the better players in this whole AA field. Mm-hmm. Ligonier, when they're clicking, they're a good team. Sometimes people get on them about the strength of schedule, but here they go. They're playing a fellow AA playoff team, and they blew them out by 42. Mm-hmm. Central blew Bald Eagle out. Tyrone blew them out too. So something has to be right going on for Ligonier. Talking about Bald Eagle once again. The stat I came up with this week. They're 6-4. Bald Eagle was feasting on some weaker teams, but those 4 losses, they've come to Clearfield, Tyrone, Central, and Ligonier, and they've lost by a combined 185-20. So they're really not playing well against elite teams, and I don't think that trend is going to change overnight and as in 1 week. So it's Ligonier. There's no other way to look at it.
Yeah, I'm the same way as you. I'm taking the Mounties there as well. Or I'm sorry, the Rams there as well.
Ooh, that's a tough button.
That gets us every time.
Yeah, don't press that button. I know some people are still upset about that one.
Yeah, what is the deal? They picked Ligonier as the school name, but then they picked the Rams as the mascot.
Yeah, that doesn't. Both sides aren't happy about the whole merger to this day and probably forever. So don't run into a Ligonier fan and call them the Mounties.
All right, well, hey, we're going to head into, which one do you want to do? You want to do the Forest Hill Central?
Yeah, let's talk a little Forest Hill Central here. The 3-6 matchup, we have the Rangers heading over the mountain down to Roaring Spring. great place to play, beautiful facility, great foliage around the town and the stadium.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it should be a good game. Forest Hills, they've been kind of in that playoff mode, as I like to put it. They've been, they're having to win games. They're on a 5-game winning streak. They kind of had a little hiccup in the middle of the season, but that could be attributed to Joe Donahue, the sensational sophomore quarterback, being hurt. Since he's been back, the team's been clicking. Jared Shope's back out at receiver. Snedden's catching balls. And the defense holding teams to 11 points per game. That's typical Don Bailey defense right there.
Yeah, I wasn't even aware of that stat. But, well, what do you think that they're going to be able to manage this Forest Hills defense against Central, my favorite player in the entire district, Austin Cunningham?
Yeah, the human highlight reel, as I like to call him. He can, they line him up a receiver. He has 3 catches this year, 3 touchdowns. He can run the ball. He's dangerous out of the pocket, and he's been throwing it pretty well, too. A demon in special teams as well. He has a punt return and a kick return. The kid is incredible, and it's going to be really tough for that tough Forest Hills defense to slow him down.
Yeah, I just really don't see that happening just based on the fact that, Forest Hills, I mean, look, we saw them against Somerset. They had Somerset's quarterback, the dynamic Tanner Stahl. We saw that they were able to shut down him. But Central has some added playmakers, Brady Moore. Then they have, Austin Cunningham they get that combination with Brady Moore. Then they also have other running backs in the backfield with Austin Conrath as well, only a junior. He's more of that fullback pounded out type of runner. So, Forest Hills is really going to get that multiple attack, not just a multiple attack, not a pounded out on the ground attack, but this is a big play threat waiting to happen every game. So that really worries me if I'm a Forest Hills fan. But what else worries me if I'm a Forest Hills fan is that the running of Sean Dell and the whole committee of the Rangers this year has not been, like we've seen in the past. If I'm not mistaken, Jim, Sean isn't over 1,000 yet this year, is he?
No, he's not. It's not the typical Forest Hills Rangers. They're not huge up front. They don't have huge numbers this year. That's why I think Don Bailey's done a tremendous job with what he has this year. It's still that great defense holding teams to, low numbers. They have a quarterback that can make plays. It seems Forest Hills always has a quarterback. They always have that, he's the guy that leads the offense, makes the plays. And Joe Donahue, as a sophomore, is, very poised and very mature beyond his age, the way he can handle himself out there. So, Forest Hills isn't going down there to lose by any measure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's people out there that think they can win this game. It's going to be one of the better games of the weekend. If your team plays Friday, maybe go out and check that one Saturday because it's going to be a good game. Both teams are coached well. I pick Central. That's who, I just like the ability of Cunningham and Moore and that defense they have that's been tremendous. But, it wouldn't shock me at all if Donbo goes down there and pulls one out.
Yeah, and we got to talk about is Dalton Snedden, how he's really come on with Shope being not only injured but having to play quarterback as well. They needed a playmaker on the outside, and Dalton Snedden's really come up big. So, this is going to take a total team effort. It sounds cliche to say, but really Forest Hills is gonna have to get a contribution from everybody at every position in this one, I think.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. It's going to be a tough game, but it's going to be a good game. So, check it out Saturday, and that's going to bring us into our final AA game of the week. We're going to be talking Cambria Heights, the surprise Highlanders traveling to the traditional power, the defending champs, the Tyrone Golden Eagles.
Yeah, this is really that premier matchup of AA. Just for the simple fact that Tyrone started off slow, came up real big in the end. Cambria Heights started off like they always do, winning and losing, but then able to pull out this really miraculous turnaround. Not even though having lost that Northern Cambria game last week, they're coming into this in a position they have not been in a while, so you would think that they'd have to be extremely excited, especially to go into Tyrone, a place that is such a really an inspirational place to play.
Yeah, Tyrone is one of those mainstay powers of District 6. It's definitely Cambria Heights has kind of been on that revenge tour this year by beating some of those mainstay powers, beating a Bishop McCord, beating Forest Hills, two of the top teams on this side of the mountain. Now they get their chance to test what they have and head over to Tyrone. Hostile place to play. First playoff game for Cambria Heights since the 90s. So a lot's going to be decided here this weekend on this field at Gray Vets Memorial Field. As a Heights fan, I think you have to feel pretty good. You know, you haven't been in the playoffs in a while, but you have this great group of seniors. The guys, you know, they're going to be remembered for a long time, bringing them to the playoffs, you know, kind of bringing the program to relevancy a little bit. You know, Nathan Bear has been okay at quarterback. He's he's gotten better from last season, getting better each week. Tyler Crawford's he's just a power back. You know, he doesn't get a lot of the credit some of the other running backs in the district get.
Oh, yeah, he's a big kid.
He's huge, and he's strong, and he's the type of kid, he'll get the ball 35 times a game, not even blink.
Yeah.
He wants the ball. He's a kid that thrives off getting the ball. Then you have guys like Kontorchik, Andrew Brawley, a great player on the perimeter. You know, this Cambria Heights team is pretty well put together. They have size. They have athletes on the perimeter. They have power back. You know, they're a complete team. Looking at Tyrone, you know, having seen them a couple times, we know Eric Wagner, the quarterback, has gotten better, but it's still not the the best Tyrone team they've ever had. But it's a resilient group that's gotten better and better. Yeah,
I agree. You know, that all that said, that's leading me to say that this is going to be like that premier game, that close game coming down to the wire, in my opinion. Just, they're built so exactly alike. You got the running game that's going to be going strong, and defenses that have both, put up decent numbers, the bend but not break type of defenses, more or less. This is going to be a really interesting contest. My question though for you, Jim, how is Cambria Heights going to be able to handle that crowd for Tyrone? Because I could tell you this firsthand, having played them twice. Tyrone, it's definitely different than any other team you're going to be playing as far as crowd noise.
Yeah, we saw Tyrone play Bellwood in week 1, and it had a playoff atmosphere, but in a sense it didn't, because once you get them in the playoffs in November, there's something that comes over that place. It's a packed house. They'll probably fill up half of Cambria Heights side. No disrespect to Heights, but the Tyrone fans are that crazy, and they will be in full force. I can't believe it's been this long into our talk about this game. We haven't even mentioned James Oliver that much. He's the best player in this game, in my opinion. He's a junior. He's in the top 5 in the state in rushing, near the top in touchdowns. He's that one guy that you can ride him to a win. He's not a big guy, but he has that speed, that shiftiness, kind of that LaShawn McCoy, the little wiggle out of the backfield. He's not easy to stop. I think when you look at the game, talking about that great atmosphere, you're battling that, but you're also battling a Tyrone team that just is coming off a state championship appearance as well.
Yeah, a lot of those players, they graduated a lot, but a lot of these players are back. You talked about it a lot, Wilson Adam, who, he hasn't been mentioned on the offensive side of the ball, but you talked about him in your playoff rundown, about his interceptions and just, his presence on the defensive side of the ball and how big that is for Tyrone. And, Cambria Heights, I don't know. This defense for Tyrone has been deceptively strong. Like we said earlier, it's been like a bend but not break, but they have senior leaders on the team. And I think that, again, Jim, to agree with you again, we only disagreed once, but I think that Tyrone is behind that hometown crowd. I think they're going to be able to take this one out in a close one.
Yeah, I'm going with Tyrone. They have a lot of those interior players, those linebackers. MacDad, a great linebacker for Tyrone, a couple of the linemen back. Some of the core players from that run to the championship are still here, and they're going to fight at all costs to defend their District 6 title. I'm going with the Golden Eagles.
So we're going to head in, guys, to AAA Quad A. Haven't talked about it much this year, but definitely looking forward to being able to cover them in the playoffs a little bit here. So we're going to start with AAA. Somerset traveling down to Southside Pittsburgh, playing University Prep at Couples Stadium. Should be an interesting one, especially based on the fact that teams around this area have had success against the city leagues here in the past.
Yeah, it's kind of cliche to say the city league teams, they're undisciplined, they're this and that, but they have athletes, they're good, University Prep's a newer school. I think it was just formed last year. They were the City League champions last season. They lost a few of those guys. Jalen Coleman actually went on to play Division I football or prep school or something. He was a big recruit. So University Prep, they're kind of a football type of school. They lost to Perry in the City League championship. And if you know anything about City League football, Perry's kind of that team down in Pittsburgh, and they played them tough. So we don't know enough about the players, what they have at University Prep. We can speculate as to what kind of team they are. They're probably going to run the ball, be aggressive on defense. Try to put you in tough situations. That's kind of what City League teams like to do, is kind of flaunt their athletic ability, because they're hearing this team's from Somerset County, and they probably don't expect much.
Absolutely, yeah. Talking about University Prep a little bit more. a player, first-year starter, actually, a quarterback, Akil Young, over 1,000 yards, or over 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns. Reading a newspaper article about him, we didn't get to see any film on these guys, but he's talking about he's making audibles at the line. He's sort of that, scan the defense type of thrower, able to, fit it in there, fit it in tough spots and whatnot. They sort of model their offense after Oregon. So, they have that running thread, and they also have, the short passes, able to get guys out in space and whatnot. You have Miles Catlin, you have Marcus Johnson, and Blay Moorfield. Those are the three receivers to watch out for Somerset. But, Jim, like you said, this is a team that they definitely want to make their athleticism known here in this game against Somerset.
Yeah, but, talking about Somerset a little bit, they have been falling back of late. They are definitely on the downward spiral. And, the team, someone making their picks this week, I read on Bleacher Coaches, is, they've already lost the game, just the way they've been playing this lately. But I don't want to count him out. I know, Tanner Stahl's not 100%, but he's still a tremendous football player. He's kind of, he's what Danny Ferentz is to Penn's Manor. He's the franchise player. He's the program. So, if he has a good game, he's orchestrating the offense the best way he can. They have Jordan Wilco, the big wide receiver, the big 6'4" guy. He can go get it. They have some tough running backs, Boyer. Somerset has the players. They just need to get their confidence back. It seems after they beat Bishop McCourt, they were riding high, then they just came all crashing down when they lost to Westmont. Since then, it hasn't been good football for Somerset. But, I picked Somerset just because they're the local team, and I don't know a whole lot about University Prep. I'll stick with them. I like the LHAC. I like these guys, so, I'm pulling for Somerset this week.
All right, here's my pick. Just, it sounds really like a really uneducated pick, just the fact that I haven't seen University Prep on film. But, with that type of scan the defense type of offense that they have, and just hit those tight spaces and those tight throws. We saw a film, Jim, earlier this season with Richland and Somerset. And McCourt even did this at times too against Somerset. They were able to really pick apart the defense. Somerset has to get pressure on the quarterback. They were not able to do that against Richland one bit. So, if you can't do this, against a very athletic team, you're going to have trouble. But folks, I guess I should say my pick is going to be University Prep, Jim. We got only two disagreements.
Yeah, it's kind of odd for... actually, no, because you're always copying my picks.
I did actually read your picks earlier today. But, here's another interesting fact here. University Prep had one of their starting linemen was shot and killed. A really sad story here, folks. Neandre Harbor was shot and killed before their first game against Perry that they lost. And, that's just really obviously a tragic story to hear. So, you hope the best for, him and, his family and those players, going forward. And, just maybe there could be a happy ending there for this team. But, again, I'm picking University Prep.
So we have one final game to talk about, and that is going to be the Quad A game. It is Central Mountain playing State College for the right to play.
Du Bois,
9-1, the Chucks.
They're tough, though.
Yeah, don't count out the Chucks from Du Bois. But again, we're talking State College Central Mountain. Looking at the team, Central Mountain, a 5-5 squad. They only have 40 guys on the roster. Remember that number.
Crazy.
Remember that number for a Quad A school. They're playing.
They're smaller Quad A, but still
a small Quad A school at that. They lost to State College earlier in the year, 36-7. They lost to Mifflin County, the other District 6 team, 19-6. They lost to Clearfield, a AAA team. They lost to Tyrone, a AA team. They haven't had the tests that State College has gone through. So now we're going to talk a little bit about State College. 7-3, playing in the Mid-Penn Conference. Some of the best teams in the state, they'll see. They've got to play teams like Harrisburg, Central Dauphin, Carlisle, Liberty of Bethlehem, and they've done fairly well. They lost to Harrisburg and Central Dauphin and Cumberland Valley in a heartbreaker last week, but for the most part, they've run through everyone else. And again, 40 players on Central Mountain, 90 players on State College. It's a big school. It's a big team. And, they've had success in the state playoffs before. And, maybe they'll be playing out of the West, even though their regular season's played out of the East. So maybe they can make some noise from some teams that really don't know what they have.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like State College. Got to see a couple of their game films in the past year. But what really impressed me about their team, maybe this is just because they're a Quad A school, so you really have to have things down pat. But going up there in the summer, folks, it's on our website. Maybe you could see their our summer preview of them. But we got to talk to a couple of their players. Sean King, one of the wide receivers for them. We got to talk to Ryan Goki as well. So, these kids are extremely well-coached football players. Absolutely amazing. We got to watch them. After we did the interviews and their coaches, we're really just breaking down everything that they were going to be seeing that week against Liberty, or in 2 weeks against Liberty, their first game. It's a very well-coached team. Al Wolski, he's been around the area, around Eastern Pennsylvania and Central Pennsylvania, and he's really a coaching legend over 30, 40 years in the high school ranks. So, this team is definitely not going to go down easy, especially, Jim, like you said, against a Central Mountain team who they're 5-5 with 40 players on the roster. So what more could you really say?
Yeah, but talking about this game, I'm looking at the quarterbacks. I haven't seen the guy play, but I've heard tremendous things about Vaughn Walker of Central Mountain, the 6-foot, 195-pound senior. He wears number 21. I don't like quarterbacks that wearing numbers in the 20s. One of my good friends was a quarterback that wore number 24. I was never a big fan of it. But regardless, he has over 1,000 yards passing, 1,400, nearly 1,500 yards rushing. He's the dynamic player, and he's the guy you're going to have to watch out for.
Yeah.
On the other side of things, you have Pat Irwin, a 6'3 junior, not to be confused with the Pat Irwin of Bishop Guilfoyle. But he has over 1,200 yards passing, 14 touchdowns through the air, and he has 3 touchdowns on the ground, 300 yards rushing. So they're both guys that can make you think about them outside the pocket. Again, looking at this game, it's going to be hard for Central Mountain really to compete. Yeah. State College is. It's almost at that point where Central Mountain's almost a AAA team and State College is almost, if there were such a thing, a 5. Yeah. So it's not, the logistics of it all doesn't really bode well for Central Mountain.
And Jim, you were talking about Pat Irwin and just the absolutely awesome season that he's had. 14 touchdowns, but against Central Mountain, all their touchdowns, they won 36-7, I believe. All their touchdowns were running touchdowns. So, this is a team that their base is a sort of not a wing tee, but they have the wings. I don't even know what you would call that. Just a flex bone type of offense, but they're able to spread it out as well. So that's extremely, extremely potent, especially you have tall receivers like King, who stands at 6'4". So, again, I think that Central Mountain's going to be given their last loss of the season and a season-ending loss at that.
Yeah, so State College is going to move on. So that's going to wrap up our game talk. I think we're going to, at this point of the season, to be fair, everyone has played 10 games. So I think it would only be right if we finally announce our Heisman of the year, because everyone's on a level playing field. So Dan didn't even know I was going to throw that out. So we're going to have to research for a couple minutes, and we'll be right back and tell you how it ends up.
Alrighty. And folks, on this great election night, a great American tradition Tuesday night, we have the votes that have been coming in, counting them up now. It's about 10 o'clock, and the votes have been counted. But the votes have also been counted for a very historic election here, and that is the D6 Sports Network High School Heisman that just constitutes the regular season, Jim. And we voted for our guys, and here is what our results were. We'll start with you first.
At number 3, I've had the same for about a few weeks now. I'm kind of changing things up, as election night comes near. Number 3, I have Danny Ferens out of Penn's Manor, the quarterback. You can't say enough about his running abilities. Over 1,500 yards rushing, 28 touchdowns, 8 passing touchdowns. What a tremendous player he is, and hopefully he has a good postseason as well. Coming in at the number 2 spot, Austin Cunningham of Central Martinsburg. He's thrown touchdowns, he's caught touchdowns, he's rushed for touchdowns, he's returned touchdowns. He is a touchdown machine. I call him the human highlight reel. But number 1, the high school Heisman picked on by me, is one of the leading rushers in the state and the leading rusher in the district, James Oliver, the junior running back out of Tyrone. You can't say enough about this guy. He is averaging 166 yards a game, 8 yards a carry. That's 1,669 rushing yards. Great stats put in by the Tyrone coaching staff, and 27 total touchdowns.
That is tough to beat, unless you're Austin Cunningham, Jim, who is gonna come in for me, folks, with the electoral votes, he got 267 electoral votes in my poll. He came in, folks, just listen to these stats. 62% completion percentage, 1,318 yards, that's 131 per game through the air, 14 touchdowns. Then, however, look at the rushing, 101 for 768. Yards a game, 76 on the ground. So he has 200 yards rushing and passing per game. But then he has 3 receptions on the year for 3 touchdowns and an astonishing 56.67 yards per reception. I can't do much else but look at some more stats and say that he also returned a punt this year. He also returned a kick this year. The man has 90 points on the season. I think that's pretty sweet, and you got to compare him to, some of the other players in the area. Yeah, Danny Ferentz has points per game, 17.4, Oliver 16.4, Cunningham only 9.0, but again, my sort of philosophy on the whole year was, just kind of, the most important player on the team. But, folks, Austin and James, hopefully you have something better to do than listen to our podcast, but you'll be getting a free t-shirt from D6 Sports Network, black or red, of your choice. You let us know on Twitter. And James, Oliver, you'll also be getting a little treat from me as well. You won our Doak Walker Award as our best running back. So Jim,
you just made that up. All right. So thanks, everyone. Get out to a game. It's high school football in Western Pennsylvania. It's the playoffs. How can't you go? We'll be here next week for podcast number 12. So tune in Friday night live from Portage, Northern Cambria at Portage, and coming to you live from the D6 Sports Network.
We'll see you guys.